everybody. Welcome to this week's live stream. I saw this post and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to say something different. Like, hi, everyone. I know. Okay. When you do this every single week, sometimes I become a little bit of a broken record and I'm not apologizing for it. So, hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's live stream.
Medyo blooming si hating ayana, or probably because of her lighting. I'm telling you now, guys, the only reason why I'm always watching Pixel's AMA is because of Heidi. I mean, come on, wouldn't you agree?
Excited to be back with you guys as always every week. And yeah, so this is going to be a pretty regular AMA. We're going to go through some stuff. Luke's going to take us through some updates or just generally what's going on. And then we will roll over to the AMA portion. So throw all of your questions in the YouTube live stream chat and on Twitter, the live stream itself, not the comment section. The live stream has its own live stream comment section, so make sure you're putting all your questions in there. And sorry, I think I'm so funny. I'm like laughing at you guys laughing. Okay, someone asked where my dog is, also, which is funny because she was just barking like crazy 30 seconds ago, so she's quiet now, so we're good. Anyways, this is chaos. Let's bring up Luke. I can't keep any, like, I have too much caffeine. I apologize.
No, same. I'm a little worried. I had like 3 cups of coffee today.
Good for us.
Yeah. No, excited to chat, guys. So today is going to be kind of an overview of the things we're working on. So we brought on some new talent inside of Pixels. We actually have like a new person starting next week too, which I'm super excited. They bring a ton of experience inside of Web3 gaming. I can't announce like who we're bringing yet, but what I can say is like they've worked on virtual land gameplay and some stuff like that before too. So it's gonna be a really good fit. And I think this week, I want to kind of set the tone. I think we're thinking a lot about one. I'm kind of calling it in my own mind, Operation Unrug Landowners. We're thinking a lot about land gameplay right now.
Luke is talking about the situation with the landowners. I think most of them are not happy with the current state of the game. Remember when Luke mentioned that they are looking into implementing industry degradation? So yeah, some landowners do not agree with that.
And we think that's kind of the most broken part of the gameplay right now. So Chapter 2, we released it, right? There are a lot of things that went well with it. There are some things that we didn't hit the mark on. Most notably, and what you guys are all feeling around land gameplay, which is actually leading to larger economic issues inside of the game too. So that's what we're trying to get right now. And I think we're going to go live with some stuff today, even some stuff next week. And the goal is to basically fix the land gameplay. So right now, the biggest issue that we see inside of the game, which is affecting so many different systems, including landowners, including like the way the normal people play the game, is that the tier 3 and the tier 4 resources are not balanced properly. Like you'll go into the marketplace and you'll see that they're actually lower in marketplace value than the tier 1 and tier 2 resources, which is so wrong. That's not how it should be. So we'll have some fixes going out for that this week. And we're also going to change our strategy with some things too. So I'll kind of break down what we're going to be doing with that. And I'll kind of also break down what we're planning on the next month or two as well. So at Pixels, what we're focused on right now is the fundamentals of Web3 gaming. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to lead the ecosystem and the space in general to think about the fundamentals more. So I say the word fundamentals a lot. What does that mean to Pixels? What does that mean for Web3 gaming in general? What we want to achieve inside of Pixels is we want to make it so that there's net ecosystem spend inside of the ecosystem. So essentially, the easiest way to frame this is we want more pixel to be used inside of the game than we're giving out every single month. And that will be the big turning point inside of Web3 gaming when a company like that, or a company like us, figures it out.
If you're like me, who's been tuning in to all AMA since November last year, you will notice that Luke has been really consistent so far with all of his statements. That is the reason why I'm still bullish in Pixels. I'm looking forward to witnessing the fruition of their plans.
I think that's kind of the biggest question mark that people still have about Web3 gaming. Like, okay, can you actually make it sustainable? And what does sustainable mean? It's that. It means that there are solid economics, there's solid fundamentals, and then you can actually grow the ecosystem more too. So there's a few changes in our approach that we're going to be introducing soon. The first and most noticeable thing that you guys are going to see is we're going to start to experiment with lowering the coin price inside of a game. And I think we're going to go live with that today even. So that means we're going to start selling coins inside of the game for a more reasonable price and capture some of the value inside of the ecosystem that way for pixel spend. And notice, and do remember, anytime that pixel is being spent inside of the game, 80% of that pixel goes to a community treasury. There's a good amount of pixel in there already. I think there's like 15 to 20 million almost in that treasury already, and that's going to be community owned. The goal to have that community owned and like fully DAO governed is around February. So we have some time to get there, but right now it's kind of just taken out of circulation. And then the other 20% goes back into the ecosystem reward pool. So basically, the more pixel it's getting used inside the game, the more that it goes back into rewards too. So keep that in mind. I think
I've got no problem in spending pixels in game if, one, I think it's going to be a good investment, meaning there's potential for it to be profitable or will give me an advantage gameplay-wise. Two, as long as I can easily earn the pixels back, and three, if it's going to be good content. Just like what happened on the release of Chapter 2. I upgraded my spec to the max. I forgot how much pixels I spent, but I easily got it back by grinding on the task board. It was a good investment.
the end goal that we want in the next month or two is essentially we want more people to be using Pixel so we can give out more Pixel, essentially. So what you might start to see is this is kind of how a lot of you guys are playing the game already. You're providing coins OTC with Pixel, which is really cool. And then you are using that coin to earn more Pixel. We kind of want to close that loop a little bit and experiment with that to see, okay, like what if we just have that directly inside of the game? There's a few second order effects that we're watching closely what that happens or when that happens. Like, is that going to really inflate coins? Is that going to do some stuff like that? So we're closely monitoring that. And if it changes the economics too much with basically making it like coins are purchasable inside of Pixel and it's leading to too much coin inflation, then we'll kind of ease back on that. We'll probably start to slowly increase coin price to make it less attractive to buy from us. But it's gonna be the first major experiment they run this week. So we're excited to see that happen. The second thing that we're working on is essentially we're trying to unrug some of the traits that we rugged inside of chapter 2. So we were talking about that in the meeting literally right before this AMA. I think the first effect or the first line of action is we're going to start to introduce more coop utility inside of the game, and then we'll start to focus on the other traits as well too after that. But what that means is we're going to do some things like introduce more tasks associated with the coop inside of the game, increase weights and experiment with some of the things there. And then also there's going to be a rework on basically how the tier 3 and the tier 4 resources work. So there's some debates that we're thinking about, and here's the state of the gameplay that we don't love right now. We don't love that you guys are basically just buying coins and then like using them in the task board, and like there's not much else to the gameplay besides that right now. This was actually one that
I don't love the fact that the only use for items is to burn them in the task board. There should be other use for them. How about use them for daily NPC quests? NPC will require you to deliver X amount of a certain item, and once you complete that quest, NPC will grant you a movement buff for 1 hour, or task board buff that gives you increased pixel task chance. At least for me, that's a good idea.
the biggest issues of chapter 1. And what we're thinking a lot about with the task board is, we actually might make it so that, and you guys might not like this initially, but I think it's going to work if we do this, and we're going to experiment, like hear your feedback on all of this. So we're going to make some of the tasks inside of a task board, tasks that maybe are not tradable items even. So you actually have to do some work if you want to do these task board tasks. What this is going to do if we do it this way is it's basically going to make it so that, okay, people actually have to go on land to get some of these resources. They can't just buy them from the marketplace. There's going to be like a more compelling reason to go on land. And there will also be like work that needs to get done inside the task too. Like you won't just be able to sit buying stuff from the marketplace and then going directly to the task board. So it's going to be an adjustment when we start to try some of these things out. And let us know how you guys feel about it. But basically, we want to make it so that the earnings inside of the game are a little bit more work than they are now, than just basically buying coins OTC, going to the marketplace, and then rolling through the task board. And
This is important. This change can affect the usual task board gameplay. If you're solely grinding the task board through relying on coins, then this will affect your usual routine, and you will have to produce the untradeable items manually. On a positive note, this might trigger a demand for wines, which is good for the economy, and up the task board difficulty a bit for the bad actors.
this is part of the bigger problem set that we're thinking about when it comes to Web3 gaming in general too. Basically, how do you make it so that Web3 gaming, when you start to add tokens and all these things, still feels like a game? rather than these kinds of things. I actually think this is a problem that a lot of Web3 games who haven't actually released yet are going to run into as well. Chapter 2, the intention behind it was, things in chapter 1 were working okay, but actually it wasn't a sustainable ecosystem, and it wasn't going to be something that gets us to the place that we need to be to make Web3 gaming amazing and great. So we had to take a risk with chapter 2 to mess things up a little bit and learn the lessons that we need to learn. Web3 gaming has not been solved yet. It's still in a very experimental phase, right? Nobody knows what's going to work inside of Web3 gaming yet, but we're getting a better idea of the kinds of gameplay that we need to start to introduce to make the game sustainable and feel good and fun while still maintaining earnings inside of the game. And we're also thinking about what are the things we need to add in the long run too. So basically at Pixels, we're thinking about like 2 to 3 things right now. We're thinking about the short-term fixes that we need to implement to basically make the game feel more fun, a bit more engaging in the short term. We're thinking about the medium-term things that we can do. So that's basically like adding in new game loops inside of the game that make the game more compelling and fun too. And then we're thinking about the long term too. Like how do we build a game for the next like 1 to 2 years that really drives more interesting types of gameplay that are only unlocked inside of a Web3 gaming that you couldn't do inside of Web2 gaming? And what does that look like?
So far, I'm looking forward to the growth and the future Web3. But right now, I'm actually learning a lot from Luke and what he wants for the future of Pixels. I just hope everything comes into fruition before everybody loses their interest.
So the long term, that's what I'm really excited to bring on this new designer for. Yeah, we can't announce who it is yet, but it's a really good get on our end is what I can say. We feel really lucky that they're going to be working with us pretty soon. Their start date's on Monday, which is nuts. So yeah, it's going to take some time to get some of the longer term, like, interesting gameplay out. But yeah, in the short term, there's game balance fixes that we obviously need to do, that we need to experiment with. In the medium term, there's some interesting stuff that we can do with a larger ecosystem. So, we've been talking about acquisitions or publishing, and basically getting more experiences inside the Pixel ecosystem that use the Pixel token. And then, yeah, there's also some like side quests that we're doing. So we've talked like a little bit about Telegram, and some stuff that we want to do there. What I can say is
Join our
that's getting moved
Telegram
on.
chat.
Yeah, it's a little bit of alpha. So we're also going to start to expand the ecosystem too. So right now, the Pixels ecosystem, it's just one game. We're in a really fortunate spot where we have some trade secrets basically on how to make a Web3 game work that not many other people have. I think, truthfully, the only team that is maybe ahead of us when it comes to some of the like Web3 economics is Axie Infinity's team. And if you've been following them and what they're doing with the Premier Bounty Board and all of this kind of stuff, like their deflationary aspects of game economy, they are killing it, is what I can say. We're both learning from each other, us and Axie, and there's a lot of stuff to do and unlock there. And you really only get to learn these things when you have a live Web3 game out.
It was a great move from Sky Mavis to partner up with Pixels. This might be a hot take, but Pixels actually brought Ronin back to life. Axie was getting so boring. Land gameplay was a disaster. Everybody preferred Axie Classic more than Origins, and only the pros were benefiting, while the casual players always wanting a chill, fun game.
So there's some exciting stuff there, is what I can say, and some ways that we're going to be shifting gameplay too. So I think maybe it's honestly easiest to start to answer questions earlier in this AMA. And then I bet there's a bunch of rabbit holes that we can go down when we explain our approach and the things that we're going to be working on and bringing on. But yeah, what I can say right now is there's going to be some game balance changes that might actually pretty drastically change meta in the next week or two. And in the next like 2 to 4 weeks, we're also going to experiment with more and more of this stuff. Like with the game meta, what we're starting to realize is some of the stuff that we did in chapter 1 was actually quite effective. Especially around things like rare industries. That was a really interesting part of gameplay meta that doesn't exist inside of chapter 2. So for example, things like the apiary, things like coops, things like windmills, all of this kind of stuff actually led to some interesting meta gameplay where you had to go to specific lands in order to get these rare resources. And once we start to reintroduce these things, basically want to make sure that the industries that were in chapter 1 that maybe aren't respected in the same way in chapter 2 are
industries that were not respected in Chapter 2. Slug Hutch and Textiler is one of them. The Coop, I think, also falls in that category. I don't see anyone using the windmill anymore, so I think that's also included.
Are going to be like more integral into gameplay and task board and rewards. Um, then yeah, we're working on all of that basically. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, maybe let's start to dig into that, and then we can go on some interesting
Yeah.
rabbit
So
holes.
throw your questions into the YouTube live chat. Most of your stuff so far has been really kind of surface level, shallow stuff. So like, I really want to see some like really good in depth questions that make Luke explode. Okay.
Oh,
So let's
here's a good question
bring
too.
them in.
Oh, and this also goes into the other stuff that we're doing too. So, in the short term, there's kind of two focuses. There's one, the short term game balance and changing some of the gameplay in the meta. And then we're also finally kicking off the cool stuff that we talked about in the last AMA around prediction. So if you followed the last AMA, we got a little technical on the plans that we have for changing
How the fudge are free-to-play players getting rugged. Can someone explain this to me?
some of the reward structures inside of the game. So last week we went so in depth on that, and it's pretty cool. If you didn't check out the AMA, there's some interesting stuff there that really, like, again, I think only us and Axie are working on like these deep Web3 questions right now of basically how do you best distribute rewards to your user base in the context of Web3 gaming, knowing that there's live economy and all of this kind of stuff attached to like the reward structure. So how do you create rewards that benefit different types of users that aren't abused and not botted or bottable, or at least like very anti-bot? And how do you create reward structures that benefit the different types of users that provide value inside of the ecosystem? Well, the way we described it yesterday, I think you guys are initially a little freaked out by it, right? But like the intention behind this is we want to basically be giving more rewards to the people who are more loyal inside of the ecosystem and more excited about the game, right? So it's going to be a shift in strategy, right? Than maybe what we've been doing before. And a lot of the work that we're kicking off now internally is basically getting the first pass at that. So expect this will probably be this is a 2-week sprint that we're working on this on. We want to get the first pass on a new type of reward structure that one like still respects the further level progression inside of the game to give more rewards to, but now also looks at other criteria inside of the game too to give free to play or different types of players more rewards too. So there's some cool technical backend stuff that we're doing. Like we're starting to implement like some different user segmentation via like there's like 2 or 3 different ways that we're doing it. We're doing like k-means clustering if you want to get into the technical aspect of it. So basically you can kind of figure out, okay, what different behaviors with all the data that we have, like groups together players in different ways, and what are they actually doing inside of the game. This is also a way to kind of detect bots. We've already been doing like some element of k-mean clustering with bot detection, but we'll start to ramp it up and actually include that into the task board distribution too. So for example, bots tend to do very similar types of actions or behave in very similar types of ways. And now we can start to actually decrease their earnings if we detect that there's very similar patterns of gameplay to bots, right? And we can actually decrease earnings rather than just banning these bots.
I'd prefer this kind of method over the mass banning, but of course I think this will not solve the problem where bots are farm selling coins. There will be less bots farming pixels, but they'll just transfer to farming coins instead.
So there's a lot of work that we're doing around there too. So again, the shift that we're trying to do with this part of it, user segmentation and like prediction, is basically making it so that different types of players inside of the game that are not just high levels, but maybe early in the progression too, we start to give rewards to also. Here's kind of like what we want to do. Essentially, we want to see if there's a new player inside of the game and they've been playing other Web3 games or they have like a great NFT portfolio. What we want to do is we want to create an incentive for them to stay into the game, right? So that might mean like an Axie whale if they've played pixels for the first time. Like we actually might want to give them more rewards early on in their user journey to try to convert them into a long-standing user, right? There's certain things inside of Web2.
I love this. Remember people suggesting KYC? This is almost similar to that. I'm a bit biased because I own Axies, but this is great. I hope they include other NFTs too.
Gaming where people know if we can get somebody to the day 7 mark, if we can get a player to play for 7 days, the odds of them becoming a positive user for the ecosystem is much higher. So part of it's going to be like whale identification, but also it's not all about whales. So that's kind of the debate when you're always building a game, especially a game that has a live economy and like a lot of different types of users playing the game. It's more MMO like. There's different types of users that provide value to the ecosystem. And free to play players are actually extremely valuable to the ecosystem. Basically, if we only gave out rewards to whales inside of the game, like if we only gave out a reward to Coco Bear, for example, and we're like, okay, we need Coco Bear inside of this ecosystem because he's a whale. We gave all of our earnings to Coco Bear when he first plays Pixels. We probably wouldn't have many players, and there probably wouldn't be a real reason for Coco Bear to play, right? So, like, we actually need the free-to-play players inside of this ecosystem to achieve the things we want to achieve too. So that's also a part of this as well. I will say what we want to do is we want to identify the best free-to-play players. And for us, what that means is they're active inside of the ecosystem. They're like playing in a way that doesn't look bot like. They're contributing to like a guild, they're contributing to like building out their lands, things like that. Like these are the things that we're basically going to be working on. So I would say that this won't go live for about 2 to 3 weeks, this particular portion of the rewards. But it's getting worked on right now, and it's in the sprint. So yeah, there's kind of 2 focuses or 3 focuses. I would share our Jira with you, but I don't think I should do that. But what I can say is, yeah, there's some cool stuff going there. Oh, and this is another side tangent too, but I think we're gonna go live with another cool experiment today too. And then maybe I'll just bring that up also. Let me see if I can get a picture of it. This is another thing that like is pretty interesting from the landowner perspective and something that we want to be digging into more also. But we're going to be running a pilot. I think it's going to start today on like basically running advertisements on land. So a user inside of the ecosystem, his name is Quinn. He basically did all the work for us, which is amazing and really appreciate that. But basically what he did was he went to like a couple of different like partners that were interested in running placements inside of Pixels and made these billboards here. And he worked with like a couple of different landowners to facilitate that. And if this goes well, then it's actually a pretty interesting thing too. So when we think about net ecosystem spend,
This is okay. I'm cool with this. Nothing wrong in showing ads on a free-to-play game.
one interesting thing that we can also be thinking about is the advertising perspective too. That kind of goes into spend, especially if we have people that pay for advertisements inside of the Pixels ecosystem, like using Pixel to run an advertisement. This is something that we can do more as well of. So this will be the first experiment that we run with that. Basically, it's like, okay, are there people out there that value our player base, the impressions that these lands get every single day? And are we actually able to drive value back to people who want to be advertising inside of Pixels? And are these placements actually, effective and all of this kind of stuff? And then if this pilot goes well, one, like we can start running stuff on more lands and making that maybe even like a product feature.
This can be a good income generator for lands, though. If a landowner buys this UGC and place it on his or her land, it gives a certain pixel reward if it is placed near the entrance while showing ads. That could be a good idea.
And 2, there's potential to add other ad placements too. Like for example, we want to add an ad placement where if you're out of energy in a day, you watch like a video ad and get more energy. Like that's the next expression of that too.
I'm excited for this though. It's gonna be cool. It's gonna be very cool. Okay. Okay, yeah, good question. Are you still doing double energy in the spa and double passive energy per minute? Yeah. Okay. So passive energy, everything is still increased. We haven't lowered it. If I'm talking purely from the Pixels lore storybook line, oh my goodness, Dale is so bad at fixing the VIP sauna. He's just doing a terrible job. And yeah, these what was it? Solar hot summer days are increasing energy. Yeah, no, the reality is we have decided to keep it as is while we work on overall game balance. It doesn't make sense to lower those amounts with how game balance sits right now. So yes, they are still heightened. VIP is 1,000 every 6 hours, I believe. And passive energy is, I don't know the exact number algorithm, but it's like double or something crazy. So yes, they're still increased. And will be until we work on overall game balance. And maybe we keep them. It really depends. It really depends on the game balance. Um, okay. Oh, someone just said try.
I'm cutting off some parts that are not that important to save some time.
Are you prepared for like a deep question?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. In your opinion, are you moving in the right direction?
Best question so far. Let's see how Luke responds.
I think so. Yeah, so we are in the stage of Web3 gaming right now where I'm not so we're gonna go all hypey and marketing soon. What we're more interested in right now is actually solving some of the hard issues for the next month or two before we start to do another growth push. So if you followed Pixels for a long time, we've been doing this for almost 3 years in Web3 gaming, right? Building in public, doing all of this. There are periods of time where sentiment's amazing because we're pushing the growth and we're, um, you know, actually releasing some of the stuff that we've been talking about and like doing it all in different spurts. And there's times where we're like a bit more quiet and we're actually working on the stuff that we need to be working on.
If you're familiar with gacha games, this is almost similar in a way where they release an unfinished game and continue building and releasing new characters, contents, or updates to keep the players engaged.
So right now, I think we're actually making pretty solid progress when it comes to some of the fundamentals and also getting like the right team here too. Like we're getting some better talent inside of the game that's moving us forward. And we're actually facing some of the hard problems inside of Web3 gaming, right? So it's really easy in Web3 to get shiny object syndrome where like some games they'll do really well on launch and then they'll just kind of fade away and you forget about them sometimes too. It's not even games, it's like NFT projects, right? Like when think about all the projects in 2021 that launched that people were like so sure were going to be the next hit and like, they raised a ton of money and, we don't even remember them anymore. It's kind of crazy. Like we only remember the ones that stuck around so far and those are the ones that were actually solving the key problems here. So I think we're going to see a lot of that with Web3 gaming too, where there's going to be a lot of teams that come in really hot and, they might have a good launch. But if they're not solving the right problems, they're not going to have any sticking power, is what I'll say. And what we're really trying to make sure that we do is we actually solve the hard problems inside of Web3 gaming to make something that has sticking power. So for us, it's all about fundamentals that we're focused on. And yeah, we're making really good progress with that. So chapter 2, one thing that we did when we released it was like we took a risk because chapter 1, like if we kept it going, we would have kept seeing number increase. Like we would have kept seeing daily active addresses increase. We would have kept seeing some of this stuff.
This right here is what would have kept Axie Classic and SLP in the right direction 3 years ago. You might ask, Artdiced, why do you keep on comparing Axie to Pixels? Axie Classic was actually my very first crypto game. Yes, I was one of those who got hyped so much on the peak of Axie here in the Philippines.
But I wasn't so interested in keeping something live that wasn't teaching us what we need to be learning right now and something that wasn't going to work if we kept it going live. So we had to come back and change some things with chapter 2 to actually make sure that we're learning the lessons that we need to learn to build something that's going to work. So this is still kind of a learn phase because I think if anybody comes inside the Web3 gaming, they say, hey, we have the perfect plan. This is exactly what's going to work. Like that's actually guaranteed failure. Be careful of teams that are a little too cocky early on as well, I say, because there's still a lot of stuff to figure out on our end. And we've been putting massive amounts of work into this for the last year. And we still don't have some of the answers with some of this stuff. Like what we've been thinking about a lot lately is like, what is Web3 game or what does Web3 game end game look like? And does it actually end up maybe progressing into like the same end game or end state for most Web3 games? So right now, what I'll say is with the task board that we're seeing and how people are playing with it, it's really interesting user behavior that we maybe didn't expect, but it makes sense too, where basically people are buying coins OTC and then just kind of like rolling a task board, right? How do you build a Web3 game that doesn't like devolve into that? Or is that maybe something that you lean into more and start building out game mechanics that are like more leaning into like how users actually behave with this kind of stuff? And I think that's maybe what we're also kind of learning and leaning into more too. Like, okay, Web3 gamers actually do like playing games in like kind of specific ways. And maybe that's the kind of gameplay that we need to be offering them more of. I don't want to like dig into the details too much of what that looks like on an AMA, but yeah, I think there's some really interesting stuff that we're learning and discovering in that particular aspect too. So expect some more gameplay. There might honestly be more degen gameplay that we start to introduce too as well, say, because I think that's what I don't know. I'm looking at the current state of the task where I'm like, dang, you degens. And that's not a bad thing, right? It's like, okay, that's how people play it and that's how people like it. So how do we lean into this kind of stuff more?
What do you guys think? Are you satisfied with Luke's answer? As for me, I'm just glad that we have minds like Luke Barwakowski and Jeff Zerlin. I'm looking forward to how they will solve these problems and to their success in making play to earn viable in the future.
And then I'm just gonna put this up here real quick.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So this also
No,
goes
no,
into
no, no, no. We're not spilling the tea yet.
I only have 5 words for this. Play to AIRDROP Part 3.
okay, what I will say though is like, so here's one of the core issues that we're identifying with Pixels. Like a lot of the meta gameplay is shifted towards one game loop, and that is go to the marketplace and go to the task board, and that's what we're realizing. Okay, we need to get more secondary game loops to open up, and there's a couple different ways that we can do that. We're identifying like basically like 3 different approaches and attacks. One is the short term. So there's different ways that we can switch up the meta when it comes to how you guys actually interact with the task board. So that's maybe some slight balance changes. That's maybe changing like some of the tasks that are offered to the task board. And then there's another side of things that we can do in the short term too around live ops. So live ops, we're actually getting a much better strategy in place. And what we want to start to do is introduce things like competitions or like secondary game loops that have a like second purpose inside of the game. And that's stuff that we can do short term with the tech stack that we have, with the team that we have, and with like the skills that we have right now. So yeah, you can expect to see some more events like we've done before, but they're going to be structured better than before too, is what I can say. Like
Totally.
the way that we were doing live ops before is, we would have things that were completely separate from the rest of the game loop. They were fun. Like if you guys have done Carnival, if you guys have done like other spec, if you guys did tastemakers, if you guys are like OGs to the space, you'll know that like these events were pretty cool. Now what we're actually going to do is we're going to start to do these more often. There's going to be like pools and different types of rewards inside of the game, and it's going to be directly integrated into the current game loop too. So it's going to act as a secondary game loop for the people that want to be participating in like more types of gameplay. And we're going to also start to shift some of the reward structures to these other types of gameplay too. So I think we want to go live with something next week is what I want to say. And that's all I'll say. So we're going to start to introduce some more
I'm so
event type of
excited.
things.
I'm so excited. No, no, you guys, it's gonna be a really fun week ahead. Okay, because obviously we have our AMA today. We had the space yesterday, which apparently, look, I wasn't there, so I didn't know, but I did get a message from someone saying that Luke was shading Swifties. So I don't know if
Oh,
you're trying to start a fight
no,
or
no.
something.
All I said about Swifties
But
was that they were normies.
anyways, yeah, so we had all of that, and then on Friday we have a fun listening party. So Luke sat down with Gabby and Leah from YGG for an interview, and we're gonna have a live listening party, which is also an energy party in the theater. And guys, this interview, like the production value of this interview, it is so good. I think it's honestly one of the best interviews that Luke has done. So I highly, highly recommend showing up, listening to that interview with us. It'll be really fun. That's in the theater. And then we have a community-led event that's happening on Saturday. And we've had events similar to this in the past, but this one is just going to be incredible. I'm so excited. So big shout out to Pixel Cat Guy from Pixel Chibis for organizing it. But basically, Lou is going to be streaming on Twitch, and they're going to be hanging out on the carnival map doing a bunch of fun in-game activities that you can earn really fun prizes from. And there's tons of different Pixels communities that have I guess almost like sponsored this event with different giveaways. So like some of your favorite avatars are going to be given away from this event. So it's going to be really, 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 really fun. So it'll be Saturday my time. It's 9 a.m. In the morning. Hop over on Discord and in our in-game calendar for the time breakdown in your local time zone. And then yeah, we have kind of been spilling the tea. There might be some guild thing coming next week, which is also going to be really, really fun. And then there's okay, wait, I haven't even said this publicly yet, but there's also probably going to be another event led by a bunch of creators next week. So there's so much coming.
Well, most likely it would feel like play to AIRDROP, but you need to be in a guild. Guys, what are you waiting for?
Love community events. I love all of that. So fun week ahead, fun couple weeks ahead.
Yeah, it's okay. So one, like I will say we can never comment on like pixel price. But because you only care about DAU, what I will say is actually we don't care about DAU. I actually think DAU is a terrible metric inside of Web3 gaming, and I think that people should probably stop talking about it, to be honest. Here's advice if you want to evaluate other gaming ecosystems, DAU is not the important metric to value. If you're a Web2 person that's like looking to evaluate a game and its success, what you're looking at is you're looking at a couple different metrics. And I think Web3 gaming will eventually get there when it comes to like respecting the market. But what you're looking at when you evaluate the success or the potential of the Web2 games, you're looking at basically three different things. You're looking at the retention of the game. So you're looking at how many players does it retain on day 1, day 7, and day 28. You're looking at the average revenue per user of a game too. And sometimes in Web2, it's enough of a science where like the average revenue per user inside of a game is like already determined by the genre of game that you're going to be releasing. But you're looking at revenue, and then you're also looking at things like engagement, playtime, and all this kind of stuff. And those are actually the metrics that we care about when we're thinking about, okay, how are we doing with chapter 2, and how are we trying to grow too? So we've been sharing some of these numbers every single week, right? And what you can see is like the numbers that we care about revenue. We showed that last week it was 7 million when it came to total pixel spent in the last 30 days. Now it's 8 million this week. What we're trying to do is I have a really aggressive goal. I want us to double revenue in, I said 12 weeks, a week and a half ago, but my goal, like just the personal goal I'm setting, we'll see if we can do it, is double revenue in like 11 weeks now. There's a couple of things that we're thinking about doing when we think about that. That's a hard thing to do. But yeah, revenue is the main metric that we're worried about now. That's basically going to be like the best metric of success when we think about, okay, are the things we're doing over the next like 2 months actually moving the needle? Has this provided a better play experience for users? Has this increased the things we care about with like engagement, playtime, and actual fun inside of the game? And fun is what drives revenue typically. But I will say fun is subjective, and I think fun, this is my controversial take and something I've been like, I was on Twitter.
Fun is equals to big earnings. I'm kidding. Fun for me is like discovering new things, exploration, damage numbers, profiting in game, boss raids, game theories, grinding. Combine all of these together with earnings. That is equals to fun, in my humble opinion.
Space yesterday, and the guy had, like, me and this guy were going back and forth on like some of our opinions on like what makes a Web3 game work and how it works. And yeah, what I can say is like our take at Pixels is that Web3 gaming looks a lot different than Web2 gaming, and you can't avoid it. That is just how it works. And the things that people find fun inside of Web3 gaming are actually a little bit different than inside of Web2 gaming. And you really only can start to learn that stuff when you have a Web3 game that's out and live. And a lot of what we're going to be doing over the next little bit is kind of trying to figure out what are those things that make the game fun in the Web3 way. And I will confidently say when like you get a little bit of earnings inside of the game, that's an experience you cannot get in any other type of game, right? And that's the big difference maker inside of Web3 gaming. Like, oh wow, I just earned some tokens by doing some of this stuff. And that's the kind of stuff we're going to lean into more too. What we like is we don't like guaranteed earnings inside of Pixels, well, say. We want to make it feel fair, and we want to make it feel like you have a chance, and give you the opportunity to do that. So that's maybe some of the gameplay that we'll be shifting to. Like one thing that we've been talking about a little bit is maybe we introduce more than one task board. There could be a task board that has like some of the things that have gone well that we've seen you guys respond to well is the chase task that we've had. So for example, like the like 100 pixel tasks that you might see, or like the 40 pixel tasks. What if we had a second task board that had more of those, but less pixel tasks in general? Like there's some interesting things that we might start to experiment with in that realm. And there's a lot to uncover and dig into there too. So again, there's some short-term things that we're thinking about with that task board balance changes to these things. And then in the medium term, what we're looking for is basically, can we get new game mechanics inside of the game and new loops? So, the first thing that we're going to be doing was more events and more types of gameplay through events. But then the second thing that we're also looking at is, okay, are there actually different games that we can acquire that kind of fill in these secondary game loops? Or are there things that we can be building ourselves too in a reasonable time frame, like dungeons or things like this? I'll say dungeons is one of those things where it's like I'm debating right now. When we talk about like acquisition targets, that actually might be the type of game that we acquire rather than build ourselves, and to kind of insert a dungeon mechanic from an existing game. But that's the kind of stuff we're thinking about and doing it right now. A lot of.
Okay, can you hear me? I think I just rugged for a second there.
Yep.
Cool. Oh yeah, this is a good question.
So what do you think about minting account progression on chain to be used in games that Pixels are going to acquire in the future? That's like Pixel reputation or the Pixel ecosystem. I actually love this. And that's one of the interesting things too. So here's one thing that we think about a lot. There's actually a good amount of value being created in the Pixels ecosystem. And we don't capture a lot of that value, if that makes sense. Like I'm not saying this is our approach, but there's like $7 million of $6 to $7 million of volume on the marketplace in like coin prices inside of the game every single month. And like, for example, if we were to figure out a way to capture like 10% of that, that's like a good amount of like ecosystem revenue added into the game, right? Or if we capture like 15% of that, that's like another 5 million tokens getting spent inside of the game every single day. And there's different ways that we can capture some of that value that actually creates win-win scenarios for people. So for one thing right now is your account is not transferable, but you might pay to actually do that. And then there's a win-win scenario, right? Where like this value is getting locked. Like your account progress, you've actually spent a lot of time and energy and coins progressing your account. And it kind of gets locked when it's not able to be traded away, right? And there actually might be an opportunity for us to like have a revenue sync that creates something that you can also trade with account minting. And we love the idea of that essentially. So yeah, there's some stuff there.
The awesome thing about this is you can also transfer your progress to another account. Let's say you have all your NFT collection in Wallet 1 and your Pixels account in Wallet 2. Instead of transferring all of your NFTs, you just need to mint your Pixels account.
Oh, here. So yeah, I think it's funny because I think I said this in the AMA. This is something that we're about to do. Pixels introduce untradeable items that can only be attained from lands. So the gameplay won't be as monotonous. So when I say some of the short-term game balance stuff that we're thinking about, yeah, this is the kind of stuff that we actually want to start to implement in the next week or two. This will be part of the short-term game balance update and patch that we do. And I think this is where we landed also. Like, again, when we talk about the stuff that works inside chapter 1 really well, it was limited industries. So apiaries, I actually think made the gameplay a lot more interesting. The fact that there weren't many there and that you had to like go to specific lands for this. And yeah, basically what we're trying to figure out now is how do we create compelling gameplay around the lands beyond just some of the chapter 2 changes like the industries. So when we think about land gameplay right now, there's going to be a couple changes that we do. One, it's going to be task board changes. So right now, the task board task for land gameplay for the tier 3 and the tier 4 resources don't respect marketplace prices. We're going to rebalance some of the task for that. 2, what we're going to do is we're going to be changing some of the like balance when it comes to XP, cooldown times, and all of this kind of stuff associated with the tier 3 and the tier 4 tasks also. What we're also going to be doing is we're going to be introducing probably new industries on land. And also before we introduce the new ones, like re-implementing some of the old industries more into the task board. So things like coops, that's one thing that we need to fix immediately.
I think I already mentioned the unrespected industries a while ago. I'm telling you now, sell your slug hutch ASAP. I sold mine 3 days ago. Ask me why in the comments.
Like all the NFT trait basically is like what we'll start to focus on. And then like we just had this discussion today inside of a team. It's like, okay, why are we so afraid to make new industries? And why don't we just make more that are kind of land exclusive? And do that too. So yeah, that's the biggest part that's missing from the land gameplay. We think when we fix the land gameplay, it fixes a lot of the other economic issues. And then yeah, we also are starting to lean towards, we actually really like introducing the idea, at least we'll experiment with it and see how it goes. We like the idea of introducing untradeable items that are used inside of the task board. I know that you guys didn't like Jimbara heads inside of a task board.
They're asking right now, literally.
Luke, come on, bring back the Jumabara heads. We need more untradeable items in the task board. It must cost energy and must be fun to grind.
They
Where
want them
are
back.
they? Yeah,
Yeah, so
there's a few.
yeah, I think we'll start to introduce those things back into the gameplay again too. That way you actually have to go out and do some stuff to get the task board tasks. It's less spottable that way. It's more fun that way too. That way you're not just playing marketplace task board all day.
Yeah, it's like the copper screws, right? Those aren't tradable, so you got to go craft them. Okay.
Oh, this is a good one too. You cut energy. You say you don't want us to be here 24/7, but you're giving rewards to grinders who are grinding 24/7. So yeah, this is actually, so when we think about short-term game balance, there's two things we're thinking about. We're thinking about the early player gameplay. You guys have messed up gameplay right now, and we're going to fix that. And then we're thinking about land gameplay. Those are the two areas of focus right now. So one of the things we did was we increased the daily coins that you get through the dashboard from 100 to 300. But now we're also going to be focused on the early game coin pinch too. So right now, it's basically impossible to get through the early game without buying coins. And that's not good. We don't like that. So we're working on fixing that too. We have a task in our Jira or a sprint, this sprint, fixing short-term game balance. And those are the two things. We're going to be trying some stuff out. I think, yeah, the team directive now is like, okay, we've been holding off a little bit too much. We have some ideas of what are going to work. We just need to actually release them now and see how they go. So we're going to be trying a lot of stuff out now. Like, I think we're going to be a little bit more cowboy about this than we were. We were like, wait, let's get the perfect plan together. Let's try all this stuff. I don't think that's the right approach in this stage now. I think it's like, okay, try some stuff out. We have a right idea. We have like some ideas of what's going to work. They're pretty educated guesses at this point because we've been thinking about this for a long time. So yeah, we need to fix the early game energy as well, say, and that's like one of the focuses.
I'm looking forward for this fix. And don't worry, I'll do my best to make a content about this, and we'll see if it will truly fix the problem.
Any chance of weather changes inside of the game? Yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot too. What I think we need is like more consistent meta shifts too, and that adds some interesting elements of speculation through gameplay. So I think one of the interesting motivators inside of Web3 gaming is the idea of like guessing what's going to happen. And I think that's an interesting route for us to go through with our gameplay too. Like for example, if we had weather systems inside of the game that made it so that it was impossible to farm scarets for 1 week. Like what's that do to task board and marketplace and all of this kind of stuff. There's some interesting meta gameplay there too. That would be pretty easy for us to implement. So that's some stuff we might start thinking about also.
I love this. Just like in Stardew Valley, there are certain crops you can't grow on certain conditions, where it be rainy season, winter, or summer. Unpredictable meta shift, I think, will be healthy in the long run for the market.
Okay, give us QL update, please. Yeah. This is something we've talked about this a lot in the past too, and it really comes down to kind of like prioritization versus like team capacity and whatnot. So thus far, we've really prioritized gameplay, fun, balance, like everything that you see us talk about all the time. But there are definitely some little things in game that can be improved, like that collect all button in the marketplace. I don't know how long you've been around for, but let me tell you what in the mailbox, what the mailbox was like before. You'd be clicking like accept. So just like stuff like that, we really want to like start to be able to implement and prioritize and whatnot. And so as we gain more capacity from bringing on more team members, hopefully over time, we'll be able to implement some of these quality of life updates that just make the game smoother and better and whatnot. So yeah, we hear you on this front.
Yeah, I will say, so a lot of our focus too has been making sure that we have the right systems changes first too. Like that's the big thing for us right now. Like it doesn't make sense to polish a game system that isn't working the way that we want it to be working.
I'm not sure if quality of life update is what we need right now, because there are a lot of extensions already catering that, such as Voxels and Pixels Game Assistant, for example. This is only for PC users. I think the mobile users are mostly suffering. It's so hard to play on mobile, to be honest.
Even though there is some stuff that we can do. So another interesting thing, the team has been split on this, but I can say I'm like pretty for it, is there's been a lot of quality of life improvements built by third-party ecosystems, which is really interesting. And you know, I love seeing that basically. But also, like transparently, this is like a pretty common thing inside of, you know, MMOs or like a lot of games, like secondary game clients, all this kind of stuff. It gives us a good idea when other people do it too, of like the things like, okay, like maybe we should build that eventually too. So I think it's a pretty good symbiotic relationship. Things like Pixels Voxels extension, where you know they're building out some quality of life improvements for the people that use that extension. You know, they can charge for it, and then you know maybe we actually just make that like a first party thing in like you know a few months after that, right? So like they can kind of take some of the risks of deciding what works and what doesn't work, give you guys like a good experience, and then we make some of the changes based on these things too. It's like a pretty common strategy for this stuff as well. So yeah, hear you on that though. There are some quality of life improvements that we should start to implement, but the team's focus has basically been on fixing the stuff that's broken first.
All right. So we are at the hour. Is there anything else that you wanted to address?
Just fix the landowner task board, man. It's been weeks without getting any landowner pixel tasks. It's just not fixed immediately if you allegedly care so much about it. Yeah. So we set aside, I think, close to 1 million pixel a month just for landowners, in its own separate pool. Yeah, what we can see now is that there are some users that play more and drain more of that pool. There might, so this is some of like the discussion that we're thinking about too. It's like, okay, what's the right balance of rewarding the grind versus like other things as well? Because there's value provided by people in the ecosystem that aren't just grinding. That was one.
It's not only landowners, man. Even the VIP players are not getting any pixel tasks. I think I saw this post one time in X. He spent 1 million coins just to get 0 pixels. That's crazy.
One of the good changes that we made about chapter 2. Like we actually hadn't had any good system reward that before, and now we actually have a good way to reward people who are higher levels up. But they're not the only players that matter inside of this ecosystem. So yeah, I think the ideal situation right now for if you want to maximize your landowner earnings in the current way that it's set up is you got to grind a lot too. But I think we're going to try to change this also. There are a few different things that we're seeing inside of the landowner pool that maybe is not working as like expected. The team's been talking about this a lot, is what I can say. We've been looking at this and trying to figure out like what we do here. One thing that we might do is we might want to add like a cooldown on land ownership. We're worried how this might change the rental market. But like one thing is like maybe we have to require you to own land for 7 days in order to actually access this pool. Like that might be a good middle ground change where, okay, if you're renting land, you got to do it for more than a day. Sorry. And that kind of eases some of that too. So yeah, there's some stuff there.
Yeah, we've been talking about this a lot. Okay. All right. Should we wrap it up there?
Let me see. Any other things here?
I think we covered a lot.
There's a lot. People keep asking if there's going to be a season 3 airdrop. So, I mean, that's the whole point of play to earn, is that it's like a perpetual airdrop, right? Like you have a chance to get a token every single day. And that's still like, I think you can view like our tokenomics as like basically Pixels is like a 5-year airdrop, right? Where what we're trying to do is we're trying to get the hands of the ecosystem tokens into the players that are most valuable to the ecosystem and best for the ecosystem, right? So we're kind of doing play the airdrop, real time perpetually. But what I will say is like we're about to start to do some more tournaments and things like that. So some chances for you to, do some different types of gameplay, like some of these live ops events or this point. We're going to set aside like
Guild competition, let's go. I'm excited for this. Let's keep on grinding. We still have time to prepare.
a good amount of pool per month for these live up events. And that'll be your chance to kind of earn some tokens in a different way too. Okay. And how to mint. Yeah, people keep asking about pets. Okay. I think we just gotta do another pet mint soon. Yeah, we'll move on that one. People keep asking for it. We gotta do it.
All right. Add it to the roadmap. If you're listening, you know who you are. speaking of that individual on our team, someone keeps asking when T. So I don't know. I want T in the game too. It'd be fun.
And then is there an update today? I think there might be like 1 or 2 things going live today. I think what we might try to do is we might try to release like an update to the coin price either today or tomorrow, which that might actually pretty drastically change gameplay. Just doing that, we're gonna watch that and see how that goes. And if it affects gameplay in a more negative way than we want, then we'll ease off of it. But that should go live today. Expect some stuff next week that'll be fun and actually introduce new gameplay. Yeah. All right. I think that's
Awesome.
about it today.
Yeah, I pinned our if you want to join our Telegram group, it's pretty small right now. There's only like 400 people in it, but I've pinned it to the top of the live chat. So the link is there. That's our English one. Also, we do have a few other languages if you're interested, just like ping a team member or something. And a music concert in Pixels. Yeah, we should do that. That'd be really fun. I'd love that.
Yeah, actually, I've been trying to work on this. There's like a couple of groups that would want if we do this. Yeah, we gotta go big if we do this one, and then it's actually pretty possible.
Beanie?
Yeah, to get like virtual concerts inside of the game. Yeah, I have my own dream guest as well. Say, I think a lot of you would be pretty happy.
Shout out to Boards Rakista, Boards CryptoCuss, Boards Zenkix, and Boards Jenksy. I think you guys will be perfect for this. I hope you guys can perform in this concert. Just for context, if you guys didn't know, we have a lot of talented singers in BCH Guild. The only question left is BCH Got Talent. When?
Yeah. Okay. Amazing. All right. Well, thank you all for coming out. I already went through all of the community events that are happening earlier, so I won't go through them again right now, but just make sure that you've like read through our minor announcements on Discord and are paying attention to our calendars and whatnot. And yeah, we'll see you. I mean, we'll see you on Friday for the listening party. That'll be really, really fun. Yeah. We'll see you guys next week. Bye, guys.
Right. Thanks, everyone.
That's it for the July 24th AMA recap, guys. I know I promised to announce our giveaway in today's video. I'm sorry, but I've yet to finish preparing the details. I have to postpone it for the next video instead. Apologies. I've been so busy lately with IRL responsibilities. I hope you guys understand. If you're interested in more AMA recap videos, please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and click the notification bell icon to stay updated. Until the next video, guys, this is Artdiced from BCH Guild, and I'll see you on the next one.
I'm going to demonstrate how to withdraw your partner. Now, some of you are skeptics from BCH Guild. Up against the boards. Artdiced is back. You thought that my calculations are wrong. Medyo mataas na. BCH #1.